Yes, how are you?
We gave them everything they wanted, just we guaranteed them the house.
Are you still sitting in there waiting for us to connect?
Yeah, so that's the house. Well, I wish I was closer to town. Then we also have like 2.5 or 3 acres, so that's like a trade-off, right? So, yeah, right now we're living in solo in a hotel.
I felt really bad.
I was calling you, sorry. I wasn't looking. I gotta get the action.
Well, because I can't deal, I'm gonna flip this, okay? But I'm gonna like call take the recording from this and this is
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, yeah.
I'm recording this on my Alright, so were you gonna get in or no? Oh, I'm sorry, it's not gonna work out. I can see you.
Yeah, we can try that.
It's not letting me do it.
Sorry, we're just
Have you ever heard the Broadway show? What's the
I think we need to do this at the movie. Oh, yes. And you know what? We'll pass the bus. I said people in the meeting. It'll be good. All right. So you're unable to connect. I will send you a new Are you on there? Oh, it is working now? It's on or no? I just emailed you another thing. I'm recording it here. And yeah, we're not going to worry about it. Did that meeting work? Oh, okay. Export. What?
Yeah.
Oh, it would sell so many tickets. We can combine it with Word by the Falls.
I think there is death involved. Not a second.
There will be an adaptation. There will be an illegal adaptation. Okay.
Hey, Rob. Can we close the blinds? Wait, the blinds moved. Because
No, Liz Warren is the. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't help you there.
Still not, or did you?
Yeah, I just figured I could move my body.
Okay.
I think these lights are on a wrist, Jeff.
Can you?
Oh, that was good enough.
Yeah, that's okay. It's just that the chandelier was really.
Oh, there you are. You're on.
Okay, this is gonna happen in just a moment, my friends.
Here they all are.
I think I'm also like, it's working on your
It is.
So our chairs are fully 20th century. Our chairs are the 20th century, it's the 21st century. But our chairs are still
When are the new ones coming?
I know this one, like I was trying to use it.
What's up?
I'm recording the big room here, and I'm gonna flip this down and I'll edit it. But this is all in Zoom, we're already recording. I have to watch you issue
Well, I can't.
Turn off the. I can see the chandelier.
Should blink them 3 times to tell people their mission is.
Okay, are we good to start?
Go ahead.
Can everyone see that over there, or is it too bright over there?
We can turn lights down. Okay, we're recording. Okay, it is 7:22, and I'm calling to order the committee of the whole meeting. We are here tonight to hear the presentation with the revised design for Riverside Park Playground. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We started this process, gosh, about 1.5 years ago, and here we are, ready to see what our playground designer, Mark Reigelman, has come up with. As you'll recall, we had a grant donation to hire Mark to help us design a playground. We had looked at a number of different playground designers, and Parks Commission, a group of interested residents, and council selected Mark as someone who had a vision to be able to help us bring in the history and the space in Riverside Park into something, ready for, the next moment in Riverside Park's life. So we saw an earlier version this spring, took some community feedback, and everything was given to Mark verbatim so that he could really see what the community was thinking and feeling about that first version. So we're here to see how that redesign comes. And then we'll take some public feedback after his presentation. And then on the village website, we have a little form very similar to the last one. In fact, you could say it's identical to the last one. And so we'll be taking feedback on what you think about the design. So how does this design work for our community? Does it work for our children? Does it work for our space? And how are we feeling about it? But tonight we want you to take a moment to see and experience what he's dreamt up for our little park, and ask some questions and make sure we all understand. I'm personally really excited for this, so with no further ado, Mr. Reigelman, welcome to Chagrin Falls.
Okay, so I'm gonna just give you a little bit of background about myself, if you're not familiar with me or my work. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to Cleveland Institute of Art. I've been in New York for about 12 years, but Ohio is very much my home. My work focuses on public space. I'm most interested in social engagement and what that means. The foundation of my work was very much about Robert Putnam's book, Bowling Alone. It's about the decline of social interaction in America. And places that have more social interaction, something as simple as eye contact in a public space, those communities are healthier, happier, wealthier, the list goes on and on and on about the positive kind of characteristics just by something as simple as saying hello or good morning. So I don't focus on playgrounds specifically, I focus on public space in hopes of encouraging and kind of creating catalysts for social interaction. So that's, so my work varies greatly in formal output, installations, public art, furniture, playgrounds, etc. So my focus is very much in public space.
I'm just making sure the microphones are picking up for everybody in the back too.
So I teamed up with Earthscape. They're a company that focuses exclusively on playgrounds. They're based on the other side of Lake Erie, just a few-hour drive from here. And I teamed up with them because that's usually my process in general. I work with folks that specialize exclusively on playgrounds, so I can work with professionals that focus on safety, materials, and all the things that come with playgrounds. So I've been working hand in hand with them throughout this to make sure that everything is safe, feasible, and in line with kind of the vision that I've set out with. I'm going to start with site details, then go to site research, and then focus on the design. So I'll try to skim through this first stuff quickly because you're all more familiar with the site. Clearly, the slides were a big hit. You saw kids basically just doing the loop on slides. The swings were a big hit. The fact that it's kind of anchored on both sides by trees and foliage is really nice. It kind of contains the space really beautiful and creates this kind of little play enclave in the center. Some things I noticed in previous photos and today is kind of like the tatteredness and wornness around the walkway. I think that's in part because there's not a lot of places to just hang out. Also seeing people kind of hang out in the grassy area over here, it seemed like there are areas to create more formal engagements for kind of hangout spaces, a place to lay your picnic blanket, a place to kind of have some toys and food and drinks and food. So a number of things that I thought could be interesting to enhance, particularly experiences that are already happening. So people congregating underneath the trees obviously creates shade. So we want to hang out there. Is there a way to formalize that type of engagement? These two little creatures, the frog and the turtle, they're super weird, but I very much wanted them to be part of the design because they're just too weird to not have in there. And kids seem to like it. I mean, it's not one where kids just like go right up to the frog like it's an old friend, kind of chat them up, jump on them, and then continue on their journey in the playground. So when I researched frog and turtle symbolism, frog symbolizes potential, transformation, purity, and good luck, while turtle symbolizes wisdom and knowledge. The two of them put together is, I think, unintentional, but interesting. So my assistant is Korean, and in Korea, like if you're married, you often get a gold frog and a gold turtle. So they're very much two parts of a whole. And so it kind of gives me chills because it's just interesting that these two creatures do exist together symbolically in other places. So it made me want to keep them and kind of reintroduce them into a new environment even more. The current design, this is somewhat of the breakdown of 3 slides. That is being very generous because it's really just kind of one slide broken up. 7 stairs, 1 fire pole. At least today it didn't seem to get much use. 5 platforms, 1 overhead ladder, 4 hanging bars, 4 swings, 3 tubes, 7 benches, 2 sculptures, 4 trees. You might be able to increase the tree count if you count what's on the other side of the path, but this is more just what's in the playground area. So this isn't that I'm trying to compete with it, but it's nice to know what exists there, so the design at least look back and say, are we addressing the things that are most used, like slides, for instance? Are we increasing that excitement? So these are some of the questions that I asked early on. Again, this is for me just to gather information, so I wasn't presenting concepts at the early stage. It was more just reaching out saying, you know, what do you like? What's working? What's not working? How could your interaction experience be enhanced? Are there parts of the playground that aren't utilized? And I was doing this with folks. It was nice to do this with folks out on the playground today. So just talking to passerbys, you know, a couple teenagers holding hands, looking like they're in love, and a mother and her 2 kids. You know, why are you coming here? What are you doing? What could be better? The teenagers thought, oh, it'd be cool if we had more access to the water right over here, they'd be liking out the ice cream. The mother, 2 different mothers said, you know, we wish we had a place for our younger kids, like kind of a separate place, because this area, you know, suddenly when you have a 12-year-old and a 2-year-old, you know, it's just an accident waiting to happen. So even for that brief period of interaction, I kind of learned a lot. Jumping into research. I'm a total research nerd, and I'm glad the folks at Chagrin Falls are also research nerds. I was able to get this Bible off of Etsy, and it's just full of goodies. Not Etsy. What's the place you get old stuff? What?
eBay.
Thank you.
eBay. There you go.
So this is kind of an old aerial map of Chagrin Falls. These 2 maps right here I thought were super cool. The one on the left, just kind of this weird kind of isometric view of houses, like really quintessential, talking about the houses along the riverfront. On the right hand side, I like the geometry of the lots versus the kind of really smooth edges of the riverfront. I thought the contrast was really nice. I had yellow marks and things that I wanted to kind of remember as I was designing. This is just so absurd and wild that I just wanted to capture. I like the idea that this seems elevated. I like that the kind of water or people can go underneath it. It's just kind of exciting. I did a bit of research on Chagrin Park, just kind of understanding its history and its uses. Henry Church was brought up at a previous meeting as someone that I should look at just as a point of reference, because he was kind of a strong connection to Chagrin Falls. The popcorn shop and Falls Theater, both of these I like because of the kind of softness of the curves. I'll talk about a little bit later the duality that I saw in the kind of architecture here. So we have the kind of front-facing architecture, community-facing, which is much softer and gentler, and then the kind of rear-facing, more the architecture facing the river, the more kind of mill-like or industrial architecture. So I wanted to capture that duality, and I think that these types of curves help soften up the front architecture and make it and help make it very warm and inviting. Looked at education and the type of structures where education was taking place throughout history here. Looked at the type of toys that were being made. I spent a good time looking at Chagrin Falls postcards. I'm totally obsessed with postcards in general for every city, because it helps you understand what's important to the city, like what postcards were being made at what point and what did they highlight. So here's kind of a number of them that I thought would be pretty cool. This was fun today because I was started. Anyone young, I basically just asked, "Have you ever participated in something?" And they were like, everyone, their eyes like lit up. They're like, "Oh yeah, we did." I had never heard of this, even living in Ohio. This was brought up at a previous kind of community meeting, and I thought that I wanted to figure out a way to bring it into design very loosely, and you'll kind of see like some undulating mounds. It's a bit of a nod to this. Not that I'm promoting pumpkin theft or anything, but this is such a unique feature. Like I've never heard it. It still blows my mind. I watched a really interesting documentary about it also. So someone brought it up. I wanted to acknowledge that I paid attention to it and kind of modify the design to help our little tots become better pumpkin rollers when they get older. So mills and manufacturing. Obviously, once you go down the rabbit hole of local history, you can't get past mills and manufacturing. It is the reason why Chagrin Falls exists. So I focused on this Milltown history, trying to understand where the dams were, what mills were used, what mills were located where, what they were producing, and how that's affected kind of local the relationship to the waterfront. So over manufacturing, here you kind of, I was just excited about the simple geometry of these mill structures, this kind of twisty ladder, windows, doors. This one if you've seen the previous design, it was clearly inspired and excited by these really big towers and chimneys. I happen to see one little diagonal that still exists, kind of towering over here. Awesome. The Bullard Woodenware Company. This image is particularly exciting to me. I like these structures up on stilts that you can kind of go under. They already look like a playground to me, just like throw in a slide and call it a day. The dam across the river also just looks like a kind of fun thing for kiddos to figure out how to get across. This is the bag company. Is this the tower that still exists?
Yep, that's it.
This is so amazing. Yeah, so this tower, also this kind of elevated rooftop over here. This was on the previous design. We removed it in the revised design, but very much inspired by the imagery that I saw in the mills happening here. You're like Oilstone Company. Also, I think this image for me captures that duality of architecture, this front-facing, street-facing, community-facing, and this rear-facing, water-facing, more industrial. I also like the kind of chunky wood architecture and structure inside this. Like, it is just designed to be structurally sound and not beautiful, but that approach makes it beautiful. So I wanted to try to capture that. And this kind of bookends the chaos of the kind of cantilevered train. This is on the kind of ends this section with something that I find just as crazy, like the idea that the city or this village is so tied to the waterfront and like tied to this thing that we have no control over. Right? Like suddenly, it ran to Mother Nature. It's completely insane. So this image for me kind of captures that interesting coexistence of industry and nature. So these are some other questions I was asking folks about history and character, folklore and anecdotes, favorite places, things that I need to know. So the next 3 pages are just things I was, as people were shouting them out, I was kind of taking notes. Make the site an attraction. Stroller parking, such a big one. A place to sit and gather. Opportunities to connect to nature and the river. Highlight the area's history. You want a perfect place for daydreaming. Use natural materials. Pump and roll. Local artworks. Duality. Social epicenter. Create a gathering place for kids and parents. Have a separate play area or separate play areas. Connect to nature and site history. Again, stroller parking. Make an attraction, make a statement, highlight the river, capture the identity of Chagrin Falls. So that's a little bit of kind of all that background. When I left these preliminary conversations, it was clear that I wanted to focus on the mill history. It really is just it is the foundation of this area, and I think that that's something that can be highlighted nicely in a play space. And so there are other things that I wanted to try to loop in. Oh, that's where the image was. I wasn't sure I brought it in. This image over here, this little detail along the top. I don't know if you can see that little roof detail. It's so beautiful. I had to simplify it because it was just too costly to do this way. But this is kind of a detail that, again, I thought was kind of that front facing, that community facing. It's like beautiful little edges that just make it feel really inviting. Pumpkin rolls, floors, interiors, blah, blah, blah. Okay, concept sketches. From there, my process is, so I'm not sketching up into this point. I try to take in all the information that I can, community feedback, historical information, and then start chugging along. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to integrate those 4 trees that anchor that north side, because they just seem so incredibly functional. People were hanging out underneath them, right? They are natural shade structures. And I wanted a way to formalize that engagement. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out some sort of platform or series of platforms that would allow kiddos and families to park their strollers and hang out there and relax. A lot of just quick thumbnail sketches to try to take imagery that I saw and put it into a space, and then develop them more so you can kind of see that detail. You try to figure out that detail up on this upper edge. You can see very distinct mill structures here. This type of shape was in the previous design. Try to bring bubbles into it, but it got really messy and slippery all over the place. So that kind of canceled it. Okay, so preliminary design. This was the design that I presented at the last community meeting. The heart of the design was the High Falls section, like the central section that included Frog House and Turtle Mill. Frog House is the green one, Turtle Mill is on the back side. So again, I wanted to create that duality with two different structures, that community facing structure and then that industrial structure. So in between them is what I was calling the dam. So the feedback that I got from that, and this is in order of what's the word?
Frequency?
What?
Frequency?
Frequency, is that the same as saying like quantity? Like most people,
The number of times they were mentioned.
yes, number of times they're mentioned. So the thing that was mentioned most was visibility. What's the word?
Modal.
Modal?
Okay.
Median mode. That's the most frequently mentioned.
You're in charge. So visibility was the biggest thing brought up. And that was brought up in a number of ways. So the way that I addressed that, and I'll show you in the final design, was increased spacing of boards to make it feel less wall-like, increase window sizes to make it just more open, opening facades completely, and on Turtle Mill doing a number of things, which include opening more windows, create wider spacing, etc. I'll go through those things. Additional swings. Swings were brought up a number of times, as were slides. The 4 swings that are out there just did not seem enough. So in the revised design, we doubled that to 8 swings. That's flexible depending on budget and community desire, but it did seem like swings was an important part. And even today, we saw teenagers down to little kids on the swing, so it seems to serve a wide variety of folks. Chimney play structure. People were scared of the chimney. We thought that this was a really unique play structure and allowed kiddos to get 24 feet in the air, but the community didn't seem to like it. So we just removed this completely. And this helped open up some visibility as well. In exchange for that, while we removed chimney, we added a really cool slide. I think we made that work. Additional slides, we've added it. Scale relationships, there was concern about the overall scale of the structures in relationship to the surroundings. So I tried to address that with some visuals in this presentation. Hanging elements, things for upper bodies, climbers, ropes, bars. I didn't have them in the revised design, but I included them in this one. Safety, I've been working with the playground expert throughout this process, so we know that what we're proposing is safe. They follow all the US codes for safety in playgrounds, which are extremely rigorous. I think one thing that was brought up in terms of safety is a smooth transition between areas, and I saw that today, that kind of wood barrier that wraps around the playground design. It really is just a place for kids to trip and fall in their face over and over again. So creating a nice smooth transition between the play areas, I think that will certainly help with safety, but we're aware of that from the very beginning. Toilets, I can't do anything about it. It was a big thing. I'm sorry. Maintenance is something that will happen with any playground, regardless of design or material. We will put together a maintenance packet for things to just look at on an annual basis. Or is there any weird splitting? Is there any discoloration? It's kind of no different than what you do for your car or for your house or any object that you might own. Public art's the same way. So regular maintenance is good and healthy and just ensures longevity. Play surface graphics. This was a really great comment that came up a number of times. I tried to introduce something that worked, and small play elements. This was in reference to the kids area. So I have separate areas for kids like 1 to 3. And people just wanted it to be a little bit more to our littlest kids. Okay, cool. Revised design. So the revised design still consists of the same core elements. High Falls is this central area here. This is the main play area. It's divided up into 3 zones, but really kind of in half. So I imagine the younger kids being over here, Frog House area, and when they graduate or they build up their strength, then they can move into Turtle Mill area. So I imagine this being more to the 5 to 12-year-olds. And the dam connects them both. So one can get from Frog House and kind of go through this gauntlet of fun over to Turtle Mill and kind of exit the slide. Mill Swing is this separate area over here, which I tried to create kind of a permeable barricade in between. This allows kids to get to and from, but slows them down enough to make sure that they're not kind of running in front of swings. And I have this barricade over here just as thinking of kids running westward in excitement, just kind of creating a little bumper to kind of keep them away from kiddos, other kiddos on the swing. The add-on areas, which I'll talk in a separate section, is Mill Run. So this is the area that I imagine kind of my 1.5-year-old really liking. They can do that loop and slide. And then Main Street. This for me is the kind of social hub of everything. This is the place where parents can hang out and gather, birthday parties can be had, kids can sit in their popsicles, lay on the blanket. I really imagine this being the place where folks are gathering. So this is just a handful of views and some shade studies. Elevation. So the first part is a little bit more kind of elevation scale relationship. So Frog House is the smaller of the two structures. That's about 10.5 feet. The little kids area over here, it's about 6 feet at its top, but the slide is about a 3.5 foot slide. So it's pretty low to the ground. We want to challenge little kiddos enough. We know that little kids really like just stepping up things and then sliding down. And so we didn't add too much challenge over there because they'll do that loop and be busy for quite a bit of time. This slowly grows in height through the dam up to Turtle Mill. Turtle Mill, if you remember, had the secondary roof and the chimney, which reached up to 24 feet. But with the removal of those and the opening up, this is now tops out at 17.5 feet. Then the height slows back down or drops back down again to get to the tops of these things, which are about 12 feet and lower at the bars, 10 feet and 8 feet. So kind of peaks and then drops back down. In terms of the relationship to the tree and the houses, at 17.5 feet, we kind of see the scale as it relates to the trees in this area, some of which get up to 50 feet, and some over here even get taller. They're quite tall. This area is on a bit of a slope, so the grade over at Street sits, about 10 feet higher than grade over here at the walkway. So these houses kind of have a downward perspective as they look down the hill. And so this sits at, the tallest building sits about 17.5 feet. These buildings on the front side, maybe 25 to 30, and on the back side, they're a bit taller. So these things are, I would consider them quite small in relationship to the overall scale of the space, trees, and vehicle architecture. This is just a chaotic drawing of dimensions that you can use as reference if you want to talk about spacing of these things. But each zone is about 30 feet wide and maybe 50 feet across. This one's a bit smaller, so 30 feet by 30 feet. So we're going to start with Frog House, then move around, and then go to the swings, and then finish off with the add-ons. Frog House, this is the welcoming structure. It's kind of a yellow-green color. I want it to be somewhat natural, but also something that will pull people over from the main walkway with nice soft edges, but also something that feels playful and exciting. This whole front and back was opened up, so you really have a clear view of kids inside. The structure is elevated. There is a rung ladder to get kids up and under. I like these little hidey spaces underneath. I think they're fun, and my daughter loves, to hide from the inland. This was empty before, but I added a piece of 3M resin just because I thought it would be a really nice detail as light passed through to cast kind of a green glow on the inside of the structure. So it's a simple adjustment, but I think it's very helpful. You can kind of see it then connects over to the band. This is the last view of Frog House. The spacing of this has increased. You have a limit to 3 inches in between, and then you have kind of entrapment or other safety issues. So what I'm showing here is about 2 7/8. It's really kind of the maximum that you can go. But I also open the windows all the way across. And I plugged in some kids in pink, so it just helps you see how one moves through these spaces and what it looks like. So a kid, even from side view, is very obviously positioned there. This is a quick foam core sample of just what that spacing might look like. all the beautiful faces and take a picture of them.
Gotcha.
You can hear that if you like. This is kind of Earthscape reference. These boards aren't quite the same size. The space isn't quite the same size, but you still get kind of somewhat enclosed space or some separation of space, but it still feels very much open and connected to the outside world. The dam. The dam is the area that runs between Frog House and Turtle Mill. This is all kind of post and rope. The additions I made here were this kind of overhead rung ladder, these bars. You see my cursor when I'm moving? Okay, great.
Yeah.
These kind of hanging bars. I think this was a great community comment. And shortly after I received that comment, my oldest daughter, was playing on these nonstop. So I think it was a great call. And this kind of more upper body horizontal ladder. So the idea is that a kid can come, step on these lily pads over to the dam, and then at the dam cross this kind of first challenge. And at this point, they could decide to go this route over to Turtle Mill or take this route over to Turtle Mill. Of course, you could play with these items individually, but I like to think of these things as one continuous play experience. One addition that you can see very clearly here is a floor graphic. I don't want to do overly complicated floor graphics because it just requires more maintenance, but I do think the introduction of a floor graphic is really good. So I tried to keep it simple and bold, but also somewhat playful, so kids can be like, don't get in the water or don't fall in the lava. And they have points to jump over. And I strategically put them under places where you have to climb. So if you did fall, all of your friends will make fun of you for falling into the water or lava. And you can kind of see what this feels like at grade. So it feels very natural. It still feels fun, but not overly fun. Like I want to kind of have this balance of play structure, but still have kind of an industrial feel to it. These are some examples of Earthscape posted log play experiences. These ones have been fairly weathered, so you get the understanding of the Tina and the scale. Turtle Mill. So this one has gone through the most refinement. And this is, again, the age group that I imagine being more than a 5 to 12. It's a bit more challenging getting up. Once you make it over here, you can enter from the bottom, but I imagine kids will want the challenge of going through this the dam over here. It's kind of a 3-level, ground level, this level, and then you go to the 3rd level. When you access that 3rd level, that's the one that takes you down the largest slide. It's about a 15-foot slide. Visibility was most concerning in this, so we increased spacing of all the vertical boards to about between 2.5 and 3 inches, it'll depend on the side, because you want them equally spaced all the way across. This is an example of what that looks like. Yeah, so this is the board width for Turtle Mill and the approximate board spacing. So try to keep it open, still try to create somewhat separate spaces, but something that a parent can see their kid very easily through these vertical boards. In addition to that spacing, we added windows to these sides, added metal mesh to the top on both sides, added a full metal mesh wall on this side. So it's just really any perspective you're looking at it, you can get a clear view into the structure. There are 2 slides in the structure. The small 6-foot one that wrap you back around over to the dam, and this 15-foot fully enclosed. We switched all the slides to plastic for 2 reasons: cost, which continued to go up for the metal sides that had included before, and there were some concerns about heat. It could just like burning the butts on it, which I totally get. Burn butts are never good. And this is this is videotaped and live.
It is not live, but it is videotaped.
Can I delete the burn butt comment?
I'll get that in post. Okay.
These are some Earthscape reference material to the kind of industrial feel I think children wants to have. Talk about the other play things. Yeah, so there's an ADA accessible route, this kind of rubber route, which is fun and bouncy. The separate net This is another one of those mounds I think just help with the play experience. It's like a point of getting up here and then using these handholds to climb up. Handholds were something that a number of people brought up as something that's simple but also challenging. And then just simple vertical rung ladders on the exterior and interior to get up to this the slide space. Size comparison. So High Falls, which is the area that I was talking about that included the dam, Frog House, Turtle Mill, that's High Falls. That area is in the dark line. That's compared to this thinner line area, which is the current play space. This is not including the swings. So 2,100 square feet for the existing playground, 2,800 square feet for what I just showed, the proposal just showed. So this is approximately 33% increase. Again, we wanted to keep it close to the original proportions and shape.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
On the other side, so that include Main Street as well?
No, this is just play area.
Okay, so you've got another portion of the top. That's
And
maybe
swings,
considered
yeah.
as well.
Yes, and we'll look through those drawings. As well. I just want to focus on the specific play areas because it was important to kind of separate these play areas as for cost reasons and for budgeting purposes. And if we didn't want to do one, we can kind of focus on other ones. Like if we didn't want to do Main Street, for instance, we could be focused on portions of this. But I do talk about that. Mill swing. So right now we have 4 swings. Community members thought it would be good to increase. So we have it double. We have 8 swings. We have 2 all-user swings, 2 regular belts, and 2 kiddo swings. So swings take up a lot of space, but they are also one of the more used items in the playground. So this is just going to be an issue of finding that right balance. This is a view from a different angle. We also tried to bring in the background so you kind of see what it feels like. Again, this is anchored on the north side by trees and anchored on the left side, so it feels really kind of nice and cozy in here. You can see this full metal mesh wall and the openness it allows. Some boldness of color here is good. You can see a little peek of the frog house in the background. The current swing area is approximately 1,200 square feet, and the proposed swing area that you just saw is 2,600 square feet. So this is a little more than double. We are also doubling the amount of swing. So if we want to bring the space down, we reduce the amount of swing. When you're looking at the swing area and the playground area together, the existing playground is approximately 3,800 square feet, and the proposed playground, which you just saw, is 5,400 square feet. This is about a 42% increase. Again, most of this increase is related to the swings, so it's something that's easily adjustable if this increase doesn't seem appropriate. But I try to find a balance of keeping things tight, but also making sure I'm checking off the boxes of play experiences community members wanted to see. Additional areas. So the 2 additional areas are over here on the west side. That's Mill Run, which is approximately 850 square feet, and Main Street, that's approximately 950 square feet. Main Street, kind of going to your question about size, it's about 15 feet wide, so it's about 6 feet on either side of the tree. That helps just give you a sense of scale. I don't know if I talked about Main Street very much. No, I'm going to talk about it. It's okay. So these are the 2 areas in the additional section. And they aren't included in those charts I just showed you, this percentage increase, because they don't exist, so there's not a point of comparison. Mill Run. So this is the area that I imagine my 1.5-year-old would spend most of her time. I imagine these kind of being 2 undulating mounds, something 2 feet to 3.5 feet. So something that's a bit challenging, but if they slip or fall, they just gently topple down. Everything I'm proposing as pour-in-place rubber. Pour-in-place rubber is ideal, especially for mounds. If we don't use pour-in-place rubber and use something else, I'm not sure how we will do the mounds. It would be a bit tricky. But there's 2-step areas. This is looking over from Frog House, so you can kind of see Main Street over here. We're sitting on the gear benches. ADA accessible route here, and on the back side, a different type of step. So we want it to be fun and challenging, offer enough play experience for our littlest kiddos, but also something that is simple and clean and not too exciting. We don't want a bunch of the bigger kiddos to make the way. We really want to isolate the play areas into these 3 zones. Main Street. So Main Street is a 950 square foot area that sits underneath the tree. And my idea was it's just utilizing space that is just not functional at all. It's mostly just dirt and debris over here. So I thought this would help clean it up and allow for kind of a social hub. Back benches along the back side, type of mill wheel circular bench around 2 of the trees, and then just keeping it open so kids can actually touch and engage and hang out with the trees, or such a picnic blanket right up, use it as a backrest. But really trying to create this space underneath the trees as a nice functional environment. And this is a view kind of from the northwest, looking past Main Street. You kind of see how it frames it there. So it also kind of acts as a bumper for the kiddos to come up and then kind of go back in. So it keeps them contained in this. The next series of drawings are the kind of in situ drawings. This is my wanting to convey the approximate scale of the playground as it relates to the overall space. And then we can scale this down if necessary, but this is kind of all the parts. So altogether, altogether, all of this area is about 5,800 square feet, or about 6,000 square feet, in relationship to a park that is approximately 160,000 square feet. So, in its full design, we're looking at a playground space that is less than 5% of the total park space. So I think it's just worth recognizing the size of the park and the size of the playground. So the previous illustrations I was illustrating and then trying to bring in images of the site. These are images of the site I'm trying to bring in the illustrations or the renderings. Again, trying to make sure I'm conveying accurately how this thing would nestle in this area. So this is the playground area, and it's kind of wedged in between, as it is now, wedged in between this wall of trees and this wall of trees on this side. As you walk up to it, this experience already exists, but framing this play experience and adding enough color to it to pull people into the site. This is the kiddos area over here. And then looking from the other direction, again, you have Main Street over here, seating all along this back wall. The seating amount would replace the existing seating that was there. That was one of the primary goals, was to make sure that we aren't reducing the number of seats, we're just rearranging the seating style and beautiful seating aesthetic. So that's design stuff. So now we're going to go into materials, benefits, cost. Sorry, no, this is wood. From the first time that I saw images of the site and it did the smallest amount of research, I was very convinced that wood would just be perfect for the site. The Chagrin Falls is so connected to nature. Even just walking around the river here, it's just this kind of heightened connection to our natural environment. And a wood playground, I think, captures that, but also reinforces that in our youngsters. Metal and plastic playgrounds can be very wonderful, but it's just not a material that I think is appropriate for the site. I don't think it's blended aesthetically. I think that there would be just a disconnect between the natural environment and that type of playground. So I think wood is really ideal. Earthscape specializes in nature play and natural materials. Sustainable. All their playgrounds are designed for a 25+ year lifespan. So they really figured out the best way to use this natural material successfully. Species and durability. Species and durability vary depending on what play feature we're working on. So siding will be less costly and less durable, where places where we're jumping and running a lot will be more costly and more durable. So again, they design all their playgrounds for 25 plus years, but the lifespan of specific types of trees, and they have pages and pages of them, vary from 15 years plus to 80 years plus. So it's quite a significant. Benefits, I don't know that I need to go through all the benefits for me socially, and my interest in kind of creating social epicenters. Playgrounds are it. I mean, I had the opportunity to design a playground very close to my home in Brooklyn, and it is such an interesting place where I see like the Puerto Rican crowd, in the Hasidic Jewish crowd, in the hipster crowd, like coexisting, having conversations, like really, really cool. In creating places where this interaction with strangers can happen. Again, the benefits of that socially and community are well documented and extremely strong. So socially, it's good. Kind of nice playgrounds. All the benefits for kids, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's great. Play estimates. Okay. Playgrounds are expensive. I'm gonna go through sections, High Falls, Mill Swings, and the additional elements like Main Street, and Mill Road. High Falls, these numbers are also all inclusive. This includes footer installation, port in place rubber, labor, overseeing, etc. So this is, you know, we do the best to try to put all the numbers into one. High Falls, which consists of Frog House, the dam, Turtle Mill, lily pads, log steppers. Oh, zoom in my section.
Also, all these materials will be on the
Oh,
web,
yeah, that too, sorry.
so you can look at them afterwards if you want to see the spreadsheet.
Is this better?
There you go.
That's it.
We'll have the new documents up
Yeah.
by end of tonight or tomorrow morning, if you want to look at them then. Yeah, you'll be able to download everything.
So it's 328,000 for the actual place structures, and then the port in place rubber in the mounds. Again, in the High Falls section, that central section, $75,000. Installation 41,000, concrete curbs 2,600. So that comes to a total all in 450K ish for High Falls. No swings. That's that 4 banks of swings. So each bank with the swings included are about $11,000. That come to $48,000 for the equipment. Port in place rubber and engineered wood fiber. We did half of that swing area as engineered wood fiber just because it's so much cheaper. We just have the pour in place going up to the all-inclusive. So for those kids in wheelchairs, they have easy access to those swings. You don't need quite the same access to some of those other swings. So that helped bring down the cost by about $30,000 introducing engineered wood fiber as opposed to pour in place rubber. That the total for mill swings would come to around $89,000. Main Street, so that includes the back benches, the wheel benches, the main platform, and the walkway over. That's a pretty straightforward fabrication. Oh, sorry. That comes to about $57,000. Mill Run, this is, you know, for the littlest kiddos, that separate section that kind of sits on the other side of Main Street. The actual equipment, log steps, double wide slide, so it's 2 slides going down, so it's extra wide. Transfer log steppers, it's about $18,000 for equipment, and then the pour in place rubber and the mounds, that comes to about $30,000. Installation of footers and structures, installation of concrete curbs comes to about $61,000. Other costs, site supervision. So these would be Earthscape or Midstate Recreation. They're a local installer that helped with some pricing. That would come to the site supervision approximately $17,000. Shipping $7,000, assuming it all comes at once, and project administration around $20,000. So that for those extra extra kind of admin things aside from shipping, that comes to about $45,000. The total price tag for everything as designed sits just shy of $700,000. So it's certainly no small number. There are ways to continue to reduce costs, of course. Safety surfacing is expensive. It's incredibly important and incredibly expensive. Pour in place is typically ideal because there's zero maintenance involved for many, many years. But there is a cost to it. Other alternatives are rubber tiles, which you've seen, engineered wood fiber, which is more or less what's there. These things are much less expensive. They require more maintenance. So it just depends on where you want your cost to go. The mounds. Those undulating mounds are cool and they're fun. I think they're particularly needed in the little kids area, but they are expensive because you kind of have to build it up. But we can reduce costs of about $5,000 if we reduce or remove mounds. The safety surfacing, it depends on where we want to go, but we can reduce costs $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 depending on the type of place surfacing that we want to do. But again, pour in place has a ton of benefits. Frog house. This is the house that kind of is a blast of color. If we wanted to remove the green, that staining process costs about $5,000. So there's the money there. The swings, if we want to remove the kind of two all-user swings and do more of a family swing, that would be about $3,000 cheaper. We would also reduce the total quantity of swings. Each one of those bays costs about $12,000. We can reduce that by reducing that, reduce the footprint of that area, reducing the safety surfacing costs, blah, blah, blah. So that could be anywhere from $3,000 to $25,000, depending on how much you want to reduce. Mill run, we added some things here, the alternate log step route, the extra mound. If we wanted to remove those things and go back to more of the original design, that would be another maybe $12,000 we could reduce. Turtle mill, we can take away the big slide, we can take away the climbing mounts, that net climber at the base, we can reduce some of the metal mesh areas and easily reduce the price of this area by $20,000. So depending on the type of cost reductions we think necessary or ideal, we can reduce overall cost by maybe $100,000, $50,000 to $100,000, depending on what we want to do. So there are plenty of options for adjustment, refinement, etc. But this is the most revised design and most updated cost and most reasonable way to reduce those costs. So this is the last page of the slide. Playgrounds are places where children drive, imagination run wild, bodies and brains are engaged. They are places of stimulation, socialization, excitement, joy, and wonder. They are spaces that build community. Wow. So that's the end of my 100-page. Sorry, it's so long, I know, but we had to do it. Can we open it up for questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
So we will take some questions, couple
General guidelines, right?
just
So we're
like,
gonna speak,
general
5 minutes per
guidelines, right?
person
So we're
to
gonna
speak.
be, do 5 minutes per person when you speak. We have a little timer.
I'm gonna ask that we give everybody a
if you
chance
need
to speak.
I'm gonna ask that we give everybody a chance to speak
because
before
I wanna
people
give
speak
everybody
multiple
time.
times.
We
Just
do
because
an
I
end
wanna
time
give
for our
everybody
meeting,
time.
which is
We do an
9:15
end time for our
about,
meeting, which is
62
9:15 to about
for community
62
discussion.
minutes for community
This light should be
discussion.
helpful. Is that okay?
This light should be helpful.
Yeah.
Feel weird sitting in the dark.
So when you speak, because of the public meeting,
So when you
we need
speak,
to
because of the
address
public
for
meeting,
the
we do need
record.
you to state your name and your
That's
address
how
for the
public
record,
meetings
just
So-
because that's how public meetings are in the world. So,
Rick Mahelich, resident 78 East Orange, so obviously very orange. So obviously compliments to you, really nice job, compliments to you, really nice job. Especially impressed with the ADA compliance, I think maybe ADA more. I think maybe a little more. I have two concerns. One is probably related to ADA, height, extremely intimidating to someone in a wheelchair. Extremely intimidating to someone in a wheelchair. Other thing related to height. I'm not sure what ASTM specifications you guys are compliant to, but I know that there's some limitations. I know that there's some limitations. What I came up with, it was when I came up with ASTM, it was 1292. ASTM an expert in two of them, or if they're not an expert in it. But I think that certainly, but I think that proven that anything, certainly it's gonna proven that anything increases head injuries by increases, head injuries by, so I would be concerned by safety. I would say safety being number 7 on the list. Safety being number 7. For 30 years, I've used the term safety first. For 30 years, I've used the term. So I don't know where we get first. Safety 7. So I don't know where we get so. That 8-foot limit would be mine. The 8-foot limit would be mine.
So I think the first, so I think the highest, the place where a kid, the highest place where a kid would be the first level of turtle mill. Would be they couldn't go from the top of turtle mill, but they couldn't go from the top of turtle mill. So the rung ladder into the first level of turtle mill. The rung ladder into the first level of turtle mill is the highest point. Could you? Yeah.
So you don't think anyone can make their way around? You don't think anyone can?
Oh, like climbing up?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. The metal mesh is designed. No, I don't think so. The metal mesh is designed so you can't get through. You're talking about, so really you're talking about
open window.
I mean, it will be the same over here. I mean, it will be the same over here. Just to kind of put your mind at ease. Nothing that we're doing is not nothing that we're doing has not been safety thousands of times.
Well, again, I think safety first. But again, I think not allowed, but not, doesn't the ASTM specification, doesn't all that out here specification.
And there's actually two rule books. I mean, and there's actually two rule books in the state that one doesn't follow for safety. And for safety, what you need is, if you have a fall height, what you need, regardless if you have fall height, you just need a safety service. Regardless of that fall height, you just need a safety service. You have that an 8-foot accessible location, you need an 8-foot accessible location, you need a safety service within the sand 8-foot fall. You can go up to 12 feet, 8-foot fall. You can go up to 12 feet.
I'm not an expert. I'm not right. I'm not an expert. That doesn't sound right. A lot of smarter people have gone through this many times.
Yeah, for sure. And that's also why I collaborated with. Yeah, for sure. And that's also why I collaborated with a professional, because like they understand. Right, because they understand also what is safe, what is appropriate. So I hear concern. I don't want you to think. So I hear concern. I don't want you to think on my list. Safety was clearly safety. I have 2 kids. They're safe. Clearly safety. I actually have 1 kid that's safe on the playground. Actually have 1 kid that's over very fun. This is your real thing to me. This is something that your real thing to me. And that's something that space, and it's part of the conversation. Space. It's part of the conversation. Again, nothing that we're showing that is, there is, again, nothing that we're showing that is of safety concern from professionals of safety concern, safety professionals and safety experts. It will always be part of the conversation, and it will always be part of the conversation. Then you continue as this, if it gets defined, if it gets defined, it will continue to define. We limit the amount of injuries. We limit the amount. With the understanding that playgrounds are a place where, with the understanding that challenges are themselves. We're going to, maybe want them to, we're going to save us. Maybe want them to practice these things, practice how things. So we will of course have falls. So we will of course don't want head injuries. We don't want head injuries or
I'm all in, like I said, those, I'm all in, like I said, those. Yeah. Thank you.
Chantel Mahalik, West Street, at the top of that Street. So I think, like, all of us are here to be passionate about our village, and I really appreciate the passion that you and I really appreciate researching so many aspects of it. I feel like I learned stuff that I didn't even realize. That park is used for a lot of other purposes. So I don't know if the village gave you a certain footprint that you could extend into. I just have concern. I would love having more swings. My kids are older, the swings, one of the things is to get them to go, or get them to go, babysitting, or if they're with younger cousins, like babysitting or fiddling for them. It's a perfect thing. But I do worry about the extension. The way that you chose to have the extension go into the park. It seems like it's taking space that is used at other times of the year for other things.
Yeah, so the goal we gave him.
Yeah, so the goal we gave him in the beginning was to stick with our current space as much as we can, recognizing we're gonna not be that
And our swing area right now is currently undersized.
And our swing area right now is currently undersized for.
Well, not for safety, the ideal fall.
Well, not for safety, the ideal fall zone is not what it is, right? Did I say that correctly?
And so we had a lot of people saying they wanted more swings.
We had a lot of people saying they wanted more
swings.
swings, so I was like, let's just see what that looks like, because we can talk, I think we need to talk through it as a community, like, do we want
have money
the 8
from
swings?
GIF
I mean,
for
we have money from GIF for the, all user
the goal
swings.
is to at least
And
add
so
those two. So
the goal is to at least add those two, so the question is, do we go to 6 days, do we go to 8 days? And so, we figured might as well.
Can it go closer to the river in that green space that's there, like where there's picnic tables now? There's a green space that's longer. There's a green space that's. Does it have to be right there where the swing? Does it have to be right there? Could it move onto the other side of the sidewalk? Could it move onto the other side of the sidewalk?
As area, separate.
Like you know where the water fountain currently is? Like you know where the water fountain currently is?
Yes.
So, if you go closer to, if you go on the other side of the sidewalk, but you're closer to the river, but there is still a lot of green space there.
You got a very steep slope there. You
Okay.
have a very steep slope. But you could move it south towards the walk, so again, concerned about the swings and if people walk on the walk.
Yeah, I actually, I had it
right along this edge for a while,
walkway.
and just kind of
This is
continued
one area
along
that I
this
just,
walkway.
I thought
This is one area that I thought that you're the buffer.
There's also a tree here as
Would be
well.
really helpful. There's also a tree here as well, so I think that relocating is part of the trees.
This was the best thing I could come up with. This was the best thing I could come up with. Run.
It gave us an
I imagine kids coming and run from here.
Because I can imagine kids coming and run here
And so
over.
if the swings were hugging
And
this
so
edge, I could
if the
see
swings were hugging this edge, I could see
this
some interference
slight
happening.
angle was
the best slight angle was
balancing,
the best
not
solution.
intruding too much into this.
balancing or not intruding too
Also
much into this open area,
all
but
around.
also giving some cushion all
We can
around.
explore other places. I just don't. I
And
don't
we can
see it
explore
working
other
well
places
if it
that
becomes
I
isolated.
don't see it working well if it becomes isolated, like doing
I
this.
imagine families having multiple
I
kids.
imagine families having multiple kids and they'll be doing multiple things.
zone changed by the safe zone changed by
You change it by the height of the swing.
So
Change
like
it by the height of
the accessibility swings, just my instinct would say the accessibility swings and then the child swings, smaller child swings. So you had it in a, so like a, you had it like a accessibility and then you had it to accessibility phase regular and then phase regular child. Like if we played with that, or if we played pattern that, we shrink it, shrink the zone or twist the zone somehow. Twist the zone.
Problem is,
You probably could a bit. The problem
you
is,
want those
you want
two accessible
you want
swings
those two
hugging up
accessible
to support
swings
this rubber.
hugging
Yeah,
up
you
to
imagine
the
the person's
rubber.
in a
Yeah,
wheelchair,
you imagine the
access
person's
to those.
in a wheelchair,
Right.
has easy access to those.
So that one is more
Right.
or less
So
unchangeable.
that one is more or
So
less.
you can change the
unchangeable.
other ones.
So you can change the other
the
ones.
top,
You could do
top swings,
the
next
little top swings next
I
over.
don't know that actually helped us.
I don't know
I mean,
that
what we
actually
could do is have
us. I mean,
more of a
what we could do is
geometric,
have
I mean, we could
more
tighten
of
the
a
lines as much
geometric.
as
I
possible.
mean, we could
onto
tighten the
safe
lines
zone,
as much as
so it becomes
possible.
less curvaceous,
safe
more
zone, so it
geometric.
becomes less curvaceous and more.
It might look a bit funny with the design, but maybe not. Like,
It might look a bit funny with the design, but maybe not. Like maybe that's
It is a
tightening it up
different
a little bit.
material.
It is a different material
Maybe it
being
would allow
engineered fiber.
kind of
So
similar
maybe it
aesthetic
would allow
to
kind of a similar aesthetic to
the platform, right, which is like
very platform, right? Which
that
is
could be a way of
very
reducing that area.
That could be a way of reducing that area.
Some costs and
Which help reduce
Just
costs.
kind of wondering,
Which I-
just kind of wondering. The zone is because kids will jump off. The zone is because
Oh, yeah,
kids
yeah,
will
yeah,
jump
yeah.
off of it. So.
Oh, yeah. But even the zone, I mean, the zone is. Even the zone, I mean, the zone,
Yeah.
kids aren't jumping up and reaching the end of that.
Yeah.
Kids aren't jumping up and reaching
They've
the end of
enough
that.
studies to
Right.
it's like,
They're reaching
enough
6
studies
feet
to know away from the edge of that.
They're reaching 6 feet away from the edge of that zone.
So even if we tighten it all the way, there isn't a.
So even if we tighten it all the way, there isn't there's some face planting in the grass or something. Some face planting in the grass or something.
The first round. The second round, I'll do that. First round.
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
I'm Tara Martin. I live at 60 Park Court. I just wanted to say, because I saw the initial presentation online, I'm really impressed with the this redesign. I had 5 kids, ages 2, 4, 7, 10, and 14, and I can see each of those ages, like in different spots on here. I feel like I have the spectrum, so, and I can, it's all fresh in my mind, all the ages. So, like, I can see them. I can see each of my kids in different areas on here and how excited they would be. And it's just, I'm really excited for this, and I hope it comes to fruition as it is, because I'm just like so excited to take my kids to a space like this. So.
Thank you for the comment. I mean, I was really kind of scared by doing the redesign because I just wasn't sure how the community feedback from the last meeting, what that would yield. But I actually think the redesign is better than the original design. I think it's moved in a really good direction. I think some of the simplification we've done, the increase in visibility, I think the overall play experience has been enhanced, and that's really because of just good, thoughtful commentary from the audience. I appreciate it. I only have 2 kids in the younger, but I imagine that in the space, fitting in this.
Casey Mond, I live at 50 Heather Court. So I wanted to echo Tara's sentiments in a slightly different mode. So I really appreciate how efficiently you use this tiny little, like 5% of the total park. It feels like you've packed a lot of fun and a lot of opportunity for exploration into this little zone. And so my kids are not necessarily age span, but more of an ability span. One having a developmental delay, and another one being like extraordinarily athletic. And I can see both of them really exploring and challenging themselves in safe and fun ways. We were just at the park today, and my 5-year-old was at the top of the slide. He's like, "This park just is not fun." Awesome. Well, we're gonna try to take care of that for you, buddy. And I think that he would get to this park just thrilled with everything. I think he's there. So thank you so much for putting so much thought into it and really accommodating so many different abilities and ages and things.
I mean, a lot of playground design for me is just like getting kids excited about the space. Right? Like, as soon as the kids see something that looks like a playground, I feel like they're entering it kind of bored. Like, I like to try to create something that just feels like an exciting, weird environment, and it just allows their imagination to be a part of the equation. So I'm glad you guys are excited about something new.
Anyone else have any thoughts they want to share? Anyone else want to share?
I'll go again.
Is it round 2?
Exactly, but I don't want, I want everyone to have a chance to do it.
Does anyone want to go before we get, go ahead.
Andrew Coning, 50 East Orange Street. I have a question about the grant from Nature Works. We got a grant from Nature Works for the current tunnels. That, do we have to pay back money to the state of Ohio?
The bulk of the grant went for the drainage tile removal. My recollection is the tunnels were a pretty small portion. Tim had looked into it for us, and we had some options. Was my recollection. I'll have to refresh my memory on that. I'll circle back with you.
Using those over at River Run anyway.
Yeah, that's the thought, is that we would be able to reutilize them at River Run, which is also in need of refurbishment.
I don't know how those grants work, but they must have a life.
They do.
They do.
Yeah, it's
wasn't it 15 years?
15-year life.
15 years. Wasn't it 15 years? Okay.
Well, this hasn't, I mean, the swings and the tunnels haven't been there for 15 years. Because the playground as it is right now was done in 2 stages.
Mm-hmm.
The first stage was with money from the Chagrin Women's League, I think, where the slides are. And then later we got the grant from Nature Works.
Yeah, that was like 2009. I want to say on the Nature Works grant. We'll double check with Tim. He's got. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember what that detail was. We looked at it last year.
We did look into it, but I want to get it exactly.
Yeah.
But we did not have any red flags when we looked at it over a year. We'll revisit that.
Any other thoughts?
I think we are overlooking.
Can you give us your name and your address for the record?
Excuse me?
Can you do your name and address for the record?
My name?
Yes.
Oh,
Linda Schuster, 92 West Washington.
Thank you.
And so you have to be from the village to be here or not?
No, you don't have to be from the village.
I think we're overlooking the gentleness of the river, and that is the feature of the area. And I believe that things have to be not taking up any more space than we're already using. I don't think that that's a good idea. And I also think that it is disturbing to me that we have to make this look like every other new park that's going up. That we can't be what we are. And I'm older than dirt. My children grew up here. My grandchildren grew up here. And I just believe that we're doing something there that just doesn't fit. My opinion, it doesn't fit.
Can I ask you, is there a playground that you've seen that does fit?
Excuse me?
Have you seen it as a point of reference? So we know, so it helps me understand what might fit for a resident.
What might fit?
Yeah, have you seen a playground that you think fits perfectly?
I think something that, first of all, I have a granddaughter that's 11. And I know she wouldn't play on this. She's beyond that. She doesn't want that anymore. I think it's a playground more for younger children, up to maybe the age of 7. And I wouldn't let my 7-year-old climb. If you take 3 6-foot men, you have 18 feet. If you take 3 6-foot ladders, you have 18 feet. I would not let my grandchild go anything that's too her shape where I can't see what she is doing.
But just
And because of that, you don't know those kids, and I don't think that there's enough space. I don't know what we're gonna find in the top of those someday. Because it's available to anybody, and we have enough teenagers down there now. I wish we could find a place for teenagers, but that's where they're gonna end up at night. No one's gonna see them. They're not gonna turn on a light up there. And I think it's dangerous because you have it so wide, you can't make it wide. So if you take 3 6-foot ladders and put them up there, plus the enclosed, whatever it's called, I don't know what it's made of, for the slide, that's all enclosed. I would be afraid if my child didn't come down right away. I wouldn't know what those kids were doing up there. They could get jammed in there. I just think you need more of an open, something that's more open. And I just think it has to be quiet and gentle for the river. The things we have done at the river, the steps that we have down there, there was a lot of thought with that years ago. It's wonderful, it's gentle. People sit on it, they feed the ducks. 30 or 40 people could sit there, but it's not taking up a lot of space. And also visually, you have a lot of, not right here, it's okay, but some places it's just like these white clouds behind it. What's behind it is green space and bushes in front of it. And I just, it's my personal opinion. You know, it's my personal opinion that it's important to be gentle with that land. It's so important to me that it has to be something gentle, not what everybody else is putting up. I mean, you see these things all over now with the towers and you see it everywhere. I don't know if you've seen the one in, it's on steroids compared to this one, the one in Baltimore. You haven't seen that one? Look it up. It's on steroids. And also, are you gonna do a mock-up of this so we can see it?
Like a full-scale mock-up?
Pardon me?
Like a full-scale mock-up?
Well, I mean, not full scale, but yeah, like wood or like heavy cardboard, a mock-up of it.
Model.
Oh, model. Yeah, maybe.
We could consider that, yeah. Thank you so much. Hold on, I've got a hand up here in the front, and then we'll go back and then over here. Okay. Ms.
Wendy Davis, 84 Ridgewood Road. I've seen both of your presentations. I thought they were excellent. I love the creativity. I've been to a lot of parks. I think public space is important. I think that we've worked towards improving our public space in the village, from streetscape to expanding our sidewalks to keeping the intermediate school in our village. with the children. And I don't think that we have a lot of space for our children. We have a lot of adult space, and that adult space has increased over time. I grew up in a village when we had a sewer type playground with some monkey bars. So I'm impressed with a lot of stuff, but I do have grandchildren. I've been taking them to parks, and I have been in parks where it's more interactive, where they have the space for the 2-year-olds and the 5-year-olds, and it's enjoyable. It's relaxing for me as a grandparent. I don't want to be chasing them, but I know that my grandchildren need to be challenged. So I think this is a great improvement over what we have, and I know there's a tendency in a small village to keep it the way it is, keep it the way it is. But whenever we have stretched as a community and opened our eyes to more creative ways of doing things, we have bettered this community. We have improved the community. A lot of people didn't like streetscape. A lot of people didn't want the intermediate school. A lot of people didn't want an expansion of sidewalks, but it has improved our village and it has improved our values, our real estate values, because we have community space. So that's.
Thank you. Mr. Schuster.
Mr. Schuster, 92 West Washington. First of all, I do agree with my wife on this. We don't agree on much, but on this. My point is, I go down there all the time. I walk down the park. I sit on the benches. I have yet to see that playground we have now with the size it is, overcrowded. During the week, maybe on a Sunday when visitors come in from out of town, that's crowded down there. Otherwise, it's not used. So I'm concerned about the space we're taking up because it's not used. In addition to that, lengthening it out and making it bigger, what's the insurance cost gonna be on a yearly basis? You're gonna increase that by 40%, is our insurance cost gonna go up 40%? And the other thing is, right now, we only have 2 big events that we hold in the park. I've heard talk the last couple of years about increasing that and bringing in other activities for the park. Has anybody considered that, or is that idea dead? Because if you expand this, right now you're cutting out by the falls area, you're gonna cut out some of the blossom time. Maybe we wanna cut it out, and maybe we don't wanna consider other activities in that park. Because we're certainly not gonna use the park on Silver Road for other activities.
Okay. Just on the question of insurance, villages have sovereign immunity towards injuries on a public space. So insurance it's not the same as like putting in a trampoline or a swimming pool in your backyard, which does have homeowner insurance implications.
We have a blanket.
We have a big blanket.
Umbrella that covers all village facilities.
He's whispering sovereign immunity.
It's a big blanket, so.
Oh,
Well, the
Dale's
only
got
thing-
his-
Dale
he's got
knows.
thoughts.
No,
Dale
the
knows
only thing
things.
that could increase is that because you have more improvements of permanent nature, to the extent that insurance policies are based on the value of our improvements, there could be an increase in cost. It would not be significant, but there could be an increase.
Right, but Mr.
Jacqueline Brown, 51 West Summit. I love the new design. I especially love the river going through it because it symbolizes Chagrin, we're all about. And it's right next to the river. And these are both my kids, 7 and 11, 10.
There will be 8.
And they would both love to play on this. It's great age range. I love the addition of the swings, and this percentage is like 5% of the whole entire park. I don't necessarily think. I know Blossom is huge. Sorry, I'm not from here, but we love Blossom. But I don't think we should plan a playground that's used 365 days out of the year around 2 events that are 6 days out of the year. I think we plan for 365 days kids, Preston comes home, he walks home from school. And I think this is a great place for them to go hang out rather than going to CVS and getting gum. I'd much rather have them sit under the tree and like get ice cream and go hang out there, and we're supporting the local businesses. It's not only good for the community, it's good for business. People will go down there and hang out, they'll go to the restaurants, they'll go to the ice cream shop, they'll go to the toy stores. I think it's awesome, and I know we can raise the money. I know we do it as a community, so.
I mean, to these other events, like I think of course we want, I mean, I actually don't know. I would assume we want this park to be as active as it can be throughout the year, like, and well utilized, right? That's the point of public space, is to be very well utilized. And I'm happy to work on design to try to maximize open space, right? So it doesn't detract, but I think we're talking about 160,000 square foot area, and we're talking about reducing that by 7,000, right? So we still have 100 and what's the math? 52,000 square feet to work with. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity to manipulate ever so slightly future events to accommodate it. And I can only imagine that these future events having a place that you can throw your kids while you actually enjoy the event. It seems like a win from my perspective. There, kids, go have fun. I'm gonna go drink over here for a little bit.
We actually don't have any drinking in the park.
What?
Hot button, hot button,
motion to drink.
Hot button issues.
Who would like to follow that one?
Okay, can we get a question?
I've got a.
Somebody. Go ahead.
Was there any consideration in splitting the swing groups? Yeah, so because I'm wondering, Greg, was there any, did you put any consideration into that? Or what was your
We
thinking?
did talk about it. I don't know why we ended up thinking that it would just make it was more efficient to have all swings together, but I mean, are you saying essentially bring the little tot swings over to the little tot?
Yeah, I mean, so like, that's one, I'm thinking about that, looking at it, wondering, because it just seems like if you take the ADA compliant swings and the toddler swings and move them over, it kind of changes the way. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or, what was the decision-making process that led you to this kind of linear layout?
We had talked about it.
We had, but we were concerned about so our concern is like those toddlers who are like doing like, they do the loop, right? Yeah. And them being near swings because they're not always the most spatially aware humans. They get on their feet and they think they know what they're doing and they are off to the races. And so the thought was by separating the swings from the smallest ones, we would be mitigating collision. And my gut reaction on having the accessible swings or all user swings along with the bucket swings by the toddler area would just be like the infantilization of older children who do need the accessible swings, and making sure that their inclusive play really does feel like an inclusive experience. But that's just, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but
hold on.
I'm driving at that, I think you want to get those toddler swings and you want to get the ADA swings on the poured rubber surface.
For sure,
if we do that, because you've got parents standing there pushing them. So, when I start thinking about it in that mentality, I start saying, well, those two are a separate entity versus we'll call them big kid swings.
Yeah.
Okay,
so if I could comment on that.
Can I comment on that also? Just really
Mark,
quickly,
go ahead.
Because just to kind of play this out a little bit, because I like what you're saying, and I can't really remember why we didn't separate, because we did talk about it at length. I think it was just like there are so many potential conflicts that if we could focus a conflict zone in one area, then we don't have to kind of spread it out. But let's go down this rabbit hole for a second. So are you saying you would prefer pour in place rubber for the little kid under the little kid swing?
Yeah, because I'm thinking as an adult, right? You've got a toddler, you've got to stand there and push them. It may be cleaner, better, and then it kind of offers a buffer zone, because we know the engineered wood is going to get dragged up onto that have to be cleaned off. So you kind of building yourself a natural buffer.
And little kids are a little more unstable anyway, so this like keeps it on
So
stable surface.
and that's what leads me to thinking about them as kind of two separate entities, is the board and place rubber.
I've got a couple people in the audience who want to address this too, so.
So I think we have to be very
Could
careful.
you restate your name just for a record?
Certainly, Rick Mahalich, 78 East Orange. I think we have to be very, very careful treating ADA personnel differently.
Yeah,
I think that's what Aaron was trying to.
Right,
emphasize.
I'm not just saying, I'm just starting to think about it in the base material that you want around it, and then when I start thinking about it in that aspect, maybe we should address these as two separate entities or three separate entities, or
a 14-year-old handicapped individual
right
plays with 14-year-old.
And I get that. So maybe we want to talk. What I'm saying is maybe we want to talk about taking the toddler swings out and moving them into a different location. I'm just questioning what the decision-making process and what led us down
Okay, I
this
misunderstood.
particular
I thought you
design.
were saying taking ADA out.
Well, he's opening it up, like, do they all need to be clustered? Is there a design rationale for them being clustered as opposed
Just
to
as I
separate?
misunderstood you, and I think Aaron was trying to emphasize, we have to treat
Right.
personnel the same.
Of
So-
course, yeah.
So is there, and this leads to a better question, because in my mind, maybe goes ADA swings, toddler swings, big kid swings, however you want to, whatever we're calling them, right? You've got three separate swing types, A, B, and C. What's the pattern that we want to put them in? Like this starts asking kind of I've got other questions, decision-making questions that I'm just kind of trying to work out in my head.
I think the only way I think the only rearrangement that works in my head is just taking the little tot, that one bank of little tot swings and bringing it over to the little tot area with some sort of buffer and keeping the other swings. That would shorten that overhang on that far end, tighten it up, and then keep everything with the like 1 to 3 year olds in one little hub.
Right.
That could be a nice.
One other benefit by splitting that goes back to the other event.
Yeah, and then I have someone in the audience who wants to ask a question here.
But the big expansion of where the slides are there effectively could make that entire back area unusable for Blossom. And you think the size of the equipment that goes back there, that's a huge, that round piece going back there. And so
What are you saying? Sorry, this right here is where
we have a
speakers.
big event on Memorial Day.
Okay.
And there's a midway that goes in there, and they bring in massive equipment.
Okay.
And it stretches all the way into that back piece.
Like this here, you're saying?
Yeah, correct.
See kind of
By
the dark
putting that
brown
in,
spot in the grass.
that effectively could, I don't know, it's
It's
a
like
question to
one
look
ride.
into, it could make that whole back end unusable for Blossom.
So reducing one bank, that would trim off like, whatever, a big chunk of this.
Okay.
Sorry, I got lots of questions about the mental, how you arrived at this.
Hold on a second. Go ahead.
Ann Clark, 358 South Street. I just want to say this is so amazing and such an improvement. I know specifically from my family, I have a 3 and a 4-year-old, and then I have a 9.5-year-old who's severely disabled, and we can never go to the playground as a family. Or I can't take all 3 of them because he has nothing to play with right now. So I do think that there would be more activity at the playground with this improvement. So I saw when you were talking about cutting back that those swings were a possibility, but it doesn't sound like.
No, from our perspective, we were given a gift by Give after their letters to Santa to literally ensure that we were putting these swings in. So as soon as we can get the poles in the ground, there will be like swings for everyone.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to put things, I just wanted to put everything on the chopping block just to show like, these are all potential cost reduction measures, but yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Understood.
I should have caught that and reviewing it. I apologize. Do we have anyone who has not spoken yet before we start taking second speaks? Go ahead, sir.
Mike Carlton, 42 East Orange Street. First of all, I want to commend you. I think you've done a very creative job here putting this together. There's a constituency that we haven't talked about at all, and that is on any day there are kids out playing ball fall. Going to be all kinds of other activities that are not organized by parents or directed by parents. I think the area expanding into the open space is a mistake because that really keeps these spontaneous games and what have you, which are the a little bit older kids, but it's important that they have that. So I think it can keep from cutting into the open space now to an absolute minimum.
Tristan Trani, Park Lane. I think the design is amazing. I think it's super thoughtful and very unique to Chagrin. I love everything about it. I love the swings, the expanded swings. That was one thing both my kids really liked at their ages 7 and almost 11. And I know that they would use this so much. And I agree, Brody walks into town after school, and I think he would go and play with his friends after school. And I think this would be a huge draw for people outside of Chagrin to come to this unique playground. And I agree with them going to businesses, shopping, ice cream shop, comfort shop, Jenny's, things like that. I think it's a really amazing space. I would hang out with my friends and their kids, grab coffee, and I just think it's amazing. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good. And Wingfield, 431 Mill Street. Thank you. This was really great, and I learned a lot about the history of Chagrin Falls. But one thing I really love is the Main Street aspect. Right now, it's just these benches, as you know, and sitting and trying to have lunch with your kids. It's like constant off the back of the bench into the dirt, tears. So I just really wanted to highlight that area, even if there's redesigns, if we could consider just an area where it's easy to sit as a parent with your kids and eat food. That's would be very helpful.
Well, would you, if this bench existed kind of as designed, how would you eat food? Like, would you lay out a blanket and sit kind of picnic style on the ground, or would you sit along the benches with, I don't know, little lunch boxes? Or...
Yeah, just little lunch boxes. Okay. Even I think in the visual you had just like steps, like that's even helpful. Just somewhere to sit that's not like an opening in the back where things can be tossed behind. That's just what seems to happen.
And what was your last name?
Wingfield.
Other first-time speakers? Okay, I had some. Mr. Kelly, do you want to speak again? Yeah.
Yes, and one thing I'm wondering if you could consider is maybe putting some of that pour in place material before this is even finally settled on, because a group of neighbors were talking last week about the fact that we never see geese in the wood chips. They don't go in the wood chips. Interesting. But will they go
on the pouring place?
They're like, oh, this is soft.
We have a lot of geese. We have a lot of geese.
But I mean, it's just a mess right now anywhere.
That's interesting.
Wood chips. And I think we should experiment a little bit to see if that's going to work.
Especially since one of the whole things with the pouring place is to reduce maintenance.
I'll do some research on that too.
Okay, good to find out.
Yeah, and I mean, I would assume that with whatever material, it will be a more active site, and a more active site will probably deter geese from hanging out. But are these like ruthless geese?
They are.
They're ruthless geese.
No, they are.
They're pretty much domestic.
I will say my son did get them to come onto the playground once with a bag of corn from the popcorn shop in the middle of the meeting. Awesome. With shiny moments of the parent.
Playground is used enough now, doesn't discourage the geese at all.
No, I mean, you know,
Interesting.
they can get
That's an
out of the
excellent
way
point.
around
I hadn't thought about that.
Something to look into. Yeah.
I can visualize endless hose.
Yes, we might be better off replacing wood chips than hosing down with the playground.
I
You did.
considered that.
Okay. We'll look for an answer on that.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
Is this round two?
Yes, you can go round two. Sorry, Shane. Go ahead, round
No,
two.
I just want to make sure. So, Chantal Mahalik, 39 West Summit. This may go beyond where your help with us ends, I'm not sure. Have you worked with another community that has successfully raised that kind of funds to build their dream playground?
I think all the communities I've worked with, these playgrounds are all part of city city funds. Like maybe there were some fundraising, but I don't think I've had one where most, if not all of it, were fundraised. Like they would usually have a lot of money for public improvement or something, or 1% would go of a construction budget would go to that. I don't think that.
Yes, some of Mark's playgrounds have also been installed as public art.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's my segue.
I was watching an Ohio Arts Council webinar recently on establishing public art programs in your community. And your name came up 3 or 4 times in that with things all around Ohio.
Really?
I texted Aaron, I said, Mark Reigelman's all over this thing, but Columbus was something you've done in Columbus. They mentioned multiple times, and I guess there are some federal funds for our town programs that will support public art municipal co-projects that we discussed, grants and other possible sources of money, besides just fundraising.
And the irony is our base is in, industry and the mill, but we have no industry. We have nothing.
Right.
So a lot of things that normally would be covered in other communities, like say a rec center, if they're just, the resources aren't there. So we have to do that, which we have successfully. Like Jacqueline said, we will all do our best, but that's a big number.
Yeah, oh, for sure. No, the numbers are not small, but that's the reality. And these numbers have increased also from a few months ago, just because everything increased a few months ago.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a wild thing. I mean, 5 years ago, this would have been a very different number. 3 years ago, this would have been a very different number. So, it's not a small number. I think it's achievable, and I'm hoping that there's enough cost reductions there that we can try to find that sweet spot that gives us a really great public space, but it's also something that and I'm happy to work with,
Yeah, we're start over here, sir.
Kenny Bihar, 59 East Orange Street. As far as the cost, I was just thinking, it is a cool design. I know my kids would like it. The swing is a huge thing because I cut down Helen's driveway. We go there and the swings a lot of times are filled up and it's like, oh, swing's open and then run. So extra swings I think is a big thing. I really like Main Street. I think that is a really cool thing. And even a smaller park for even littler kids, which is all the smaller numbers. Like the 450,000 is for the main thing. Have we thought about putting in Main Street and adding on swings, and maybe that's it? Maybe, like in other words, the 3 things around it. I mean, because I know as a parent, like sitting places to sit, it's not great places to sit, and I know that the swings are there's never enough swings. So it's a very cool design. It's a cool design. I like the thought process that went through it. I know my 7-year-old would look at it and just be like, this would be the greatest. But still, it's a hefty price tag. And I think those other 2 things, Main Street and swing, would be a huge hit. Even if we kept the current flavor, at least for now, and maybe sequence it in over time.
Hold on.
Allison Brown, 504 North Main Street. I love the design. I think it's great. My kids would love it. Very good. 6 and 8. Thank you. I really enjoyed listening to this. My question does not relate to the playground, but I was wondering if we could get a recycling can down there. I feel like I'm always like carrying home my recycling. So, sorry, I know it's very.
No, this is important. I mean, for sure. Make this, I mean, we want this to be a usable space, so it's great.
So we'll drop that in, we'll drop, you just put your comment in, so
Yeah.
the perfect people have heard that.
Is there a trash can down there or?
The problem is people don't use the recycling. We used to have with the solar powered in compactor and all the ice cream and everything else. We just wound up throwing away the recycling. Because they don't respect, even if you put the, holes in the hole for the can, they'll throw trash and everything in those.
Okay. I'm sorry. And what about the drinking fountain? Is that?
We are keeping the drinking fountain, but I think it will be a new version of the drinking fountain. The last time we had talked about it, we figured it'd be something that did have a lower one for the dogs, but also was accessible so that wheelchairs could use it. And then, so it'll be a more modernized.
And it's gonna be moved, obviously.
It'll be moved, obviously, yes.
Well, in the design too, I left two little pockets.
Yes.
One here, I thought could be a good place for a water fountain, or over here if we want to do a separate pad. So this is only within a few feet of its current location, so the water lines are more or less in the area. So depending on the type of fountain and the exact location, it could stay in here or move, off wherever you think is best. But I did kind of have some placeholders for it.
Okay, Jacqueline.
Jacqueline Brown, 51 West Summit. Can we talk about how the village had mentioned covering costs of boarding place, and the large donation that has already been moved forward? Because that cuts costs tremendously, and we are not losing $700,000. We are reducing that, so it's much more doable.
Yeah, so where we're at number-wise, the village had gone into this thinking that we would cover like the installation and the engineering costs that are involved with all this. And then the intention from council, from the administration and council over the budget process was sort of that we would like to take care of the rubberized surfacing, because from an administrative standpoint and from a maintenance standpoint, it's, the wood chips, which are not really wood chips. We're using the term wood chips, but they're actually they're processed more than a traditional wood chip. They're not, you can't go to Home Depot and buy them out of the little bags. You've got to they're specialized, they're more pulped, which gives them more stability. So a traditional wood chip is too slippery for people who need a little extra traction. So in order to make those transfers safer and comply with ADA, it's a pulped wood. It's processed 3 times. It's a whole world of wood chip that's very specialized. And so it requires regular raking, and we refill them multiple times throughout the year. And so the rough the bar napkin sort of estimate was that we would recoup costs on the rubberized surface over the course of 15 years. It would sort of pay for itself in terms of what we do on maintenance, man hours.
But that was on a much
40 hours.
reduced footprint of the poured rubber.
But this
And
is-
he just increased the poured rubber by 15, or by 5%, I think. I did the math right.
I'm sure I can't do that. So I'm not gonna
Regardless if the
But-
conversation was had,
Right, so the conversation was headed that direction, so we do need to sort of tighten up some of those pieces now that we see real square footage and stuff like that. But that was sort of where we have been heading. And then council has also had now 3 readings for a $250,000 donation from the Connor Foundation. The Connor Foundation also gave us the donation to provide a designer services of a designer so that we could really be thoughtful about the space within Riverside Park. Right around the time that Senator Dolan had gotten us the $100,000 to realign the path, which has been a long-term dream of the village. It's one of those things you ask for and you never know when you get, and it just showed up with here's $100,000 so you can fix this path and make it amazing. Either kind of showed up with these offers to work together. So so we are looking at that $250,000 donation as well. Did I cover it? Okay. Ms. Martin.
Sarah Martin, 60 Park Court. So this isn't a super serious comment, but since we're giving opinions, I wanted to tell you my 3 favorite things that I liked. I really like the mounds for for the little kids. I think that's really cool, and the nod to the pumpkin roll, love that. I really like the river design and the climbing, you know, not go in the water. I don't know, Mark, if your kids listen to the floor is lava, but I would love for them to go down here and not do it on my couch in my living room. And then I really like the second story, to the one design for like the bigger kids with the full slide. Like, I feel like my kids would just love to look out. They love to be in nature and the trees, and that would like give them the feel of that too. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anyone else who wants to speak?
Here's a simple one.
Could you name
Ellen
and
Hunt,
address?
56 East Orange, I'm right there. That's what I see all day, every day. It's glass all the way behind our house. So I can see everything, and we've been there for 40 years. So we know all three things that we had there, you know, this is the third one. Nighttime, there are problems there, not every night, and that is often once down. We don't have air conditioning, so I don't care. So I can hear who's down there at midnight farting around, right? And I could call for help. Now, that doesn't happen every day, but there are things that happen in our park by kids, older kids, that most people don't realize happen. It's not every day, it's not every week, it's gotten better, not worse, but I'm the one that can hear it, you know, because the windows are open for the night.
Do you think there's any way to deter such activity, like lighting oftentimes is like used in situations like this?
They don't care. They
Pardon
don't
me?
care. You know what? Nobody goes through to check that part. There's nobody walking through with, you know, the right uniform on. They never go on. You have to call and ask for them. So the kids know, huh, we're gonna have fun. They take the swings and they really make a mess out of those sometimes. That's when I call.
Yeah, the problem is that when they're doing things, and right now they're not in the skating shelter because we're trying to get the park to regrow after all the activity. So they haven't been able to get there. But when they are there, you're making a huge mess. And it's really up. And the trouble is that when I call the police, you say we have to be able to actually see what's happening. Well, it's dark, and by the time they get there, you aren't seeing what's happening.
Can I ask a question about the problem with kids at night? Is it mostly, I always hear about the skating shelter, and I know the problems with it being more enclosed, but it's also kind of recessed in back. It feels more private than the playground. Do you have trouble in the playground? I heard you saying the swings, but on the playground equipment that was currently there?
We found loose bottles broken on purpose in the mulch.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so Rick found it, and you know, some other neighbors
Go and clean up the glass and
regularly
stuff.
clean it
Yeah,
up.
I understand.
You know, it's definitely.
Well, I know, I mean, it's teenagers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I know even when we put Santa sleigh down there in the wintertime, it got moved 20 feet into the grass by a group of bar goers. So they took the bolts, a sign got thrown away. So I know we were surrounded by a lot of bars, but those weren't teenagers, so, okay.
Okay, do you have any other thoughts, comments on the design? Otherwise, we're going to start wrapping up here with a 9:15 end time. Okay, so on the village website tomorrow will be this presentation that you can download. We are obviously recording this for all of our friends who are not in the room. It'll be on YouTube. And so you guys will all be famous. You'll be on YouTube. Do you like how the camera's facing at us? So if you can fill out, we've made all your, we've recorded everything here. Obviously, it's a public meeting. If you have thoughts, feelings, other things that come to mind after the meeting, please feel free to go on, fill out our little feedback form. We're going to have it open until July 28th. After that, it'll get downloaded and disseminated to council so we can sort of figure out what those next steps are going to be. My thought at this point is council will probably meet as a committee of the whole, similar to this. In the first week of August, try to get a sense of where we're headed with this. I know we have a group that's ready to fundraise, so they want to know where we're at. And so I'm really grateful everyone came out. I know it's been a process, but you know, it's kind of fun to have public input in a park. It's a unique opportunity to sort of really build a playground in the center of the park that really sort of reflects a lot of the intentionality and the thoughtfulness of this community. So I appreciate everybody's time and your energy and your thoughts and your, you know, everything. So thank you. Any last minute things? Otherwise,
Can I ask this real quick? Can I ask also if you would go on and give your own public input, but can you please ask all your neighbors and your friends and anyone who may not have been here tonight? Because the more comments we receive, the easier it is, certainly for me, I don't want to speak for everyone else, but as a council person, to know what the community is thinking. And I know you're all very involved, but I also know you know 5, 10 other people that wanted to get here and weren't able to get here. So I'd appreciate as many comments as we could get on that form.
Agreed. I really can't stress it enough. So thank you guys so much. We will adjourn at 9:09.
Thank you.